Hi everyone, welcome back to my little corner of the internet. And first of all, let me thank and welcome all of the new subscribers. Thank you so much. My last video did weirdly well. I did not expect it to be that well received, so thank you very much. I know that once again, my most popular videos are not the regular videos I do, but I do hope you stick around regardless. And while I'm not becoming a reaction channel, I will try and incorporate more reactions as they come along, or if anybody recommends something for me to check out. Putting that aside, today we're going to talk about season 6 of Black Mirror. The way I want to go through this is I'll go through each episode very quickly and then dive a little deeper into my favorite and least favorite episodes. Sounds good? Sounds good to me. So let's go. So episode 1 was Joan is Awful. And according to the internet, the synopsis for that is: an average woman is stunned to discover a global streaming platform has launched a prestige TV drama adaptation of her life in which she is portrayed by Hollywood A-lister Salma Hayek. I think this is probably the most accurate plot synopsis out of all of them. And that's kind of funny, but yes. So, Joan is Awful was a great season opener. It does what some of the best Black Mirror episodes do. They use current technology and add a ridiculous yet totally plausible twist to it, thus making it completely terrifying. In addition to that, they were able to make fun of Netflix in a very entertaining way, and Netflix gets bonus points for going along with it. My two favorite things in the episode were Salma Hayek being hilarious and seeing how the plot of each layer changed and became more dramatized and ridiculous. I thought it was really clever. One thing I didn't particularly like was how half-assed the explanation for the situation was. It felt very rushed, and while I don't think they need to spend a half an episode on it, another minute or two would have been nice. Alright, episode 2, Loch Henry. The synopsis for that one is: a young couple travel to a sleepy Scottish town to start work on a genteel nature documentary, but find themselves drawn to a juicy local story involving shocking events of the past. I think this one is a lot more vague than the Joan is Awful synopsis, and for a good reason. Going from like a relatively lighthearted and optimistic episode to an absolutely tragic one. I have to say, I did not see the twists and turns of this story coming. It was so artfully crafted. Seeing the people making the documentary become the subject of the documentary and then seeing the feeding frenzy around it was just a Black Mirror in the realest sense of the word. Alright, episode 3 was Beyond the Sea. And in that one, they describe it as: in an alternative 1969, two men on a perilous high-tech mission wrestle with the consequences of an unimaginable tragedy. Yeah, that's putting it lightly, I think. Because when it rains and pours and we go from a tragic episode to just a bleak story, this one felt like it was easier to predict, but ultimately the ending really didn't go how I expected it to. I was sure that Lana would fall in love with David, Josh Hartnett's character, and that together they would decide to kill off Cliff, Aaron Paul's character. A lot of the story and the beats in the story felt like they were leading up to that. So it was interesting when it didn't do that. Also, the scene where Rory Culkin's character, Kappa, I believe is his name, and his followers murdered David's family felt very heavily inspired by Charles Manson. It immediately made me think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I wonder how much they were inspired by all of that. Episode 4 is Mazey Day. This one is described as: a troubled starlet is dogged by invasive paparazzi while dealing with the consequences of a hit-and-run incident. Another very vague one. Like, they really keep the meat and potatoes of the episode hidden in those synapses, which is really good. I think that's cool. But also, you don't know what you're going into. So the last two episodes, this one and the one after that, felt very disconnected from like technology-based stories, although I guess some arguments can be made for Mazey Day. Having said that, it did end up with a woman turning into a werewolf and killing herself, so technology. It was interesting because unlike the next episode, which is clearly labeled as a Red Mirror production, this one is still under the Black Mirror umbrella, so more emphasis on technology would be expected. In that regard, I guess it is a callback to the very first episode of season 1. The story is less about technology itself and more about the media and its sensationalism, the paparazzi doing whatever it takes to get the shot, even while a person is in distress, and to the point of capturing that person's suicide. It is very, very grim. In that regard, I guess it's very Black Mirror. Finally, we have episode 5, which is Demon 79. And this one is described as, in Northern England, 1979, a meek sales assistant is told she must commit terrible acts to prevent disaster. Again, putting it lightly. The last episode of the season is also, as I mentioned, a Red Mirror production. So by labeling it that, we understand that we shouldn't expect exactly the same situations as a Black Mirror episode. So I think that was nice, putting a little bit of a hint of like things may not be as they appear. In this one, we stick with the supernatural elements that we had in the previous episode and actually get a demon, like an actual demon. That's fun. The episode reminded me so much of the latest Shyamalan movie, Knock at the Cabin. The base premise at the end of the day is the same, right? A person has to decide whether or not they believe that committing murder would save the world. So the ending of this episode was kind of fun. It's not a happy ending per se, but it's not a sad one either. I would say it's cathartic. I felt it was the correct ending, if you will. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of the episodes lightly, I would say that my favorite episodes were Joan is Awful and Loch Henry. My least favorite episode was Mazey Day. So I think starting the season with Joan is Awful was really smart. We have really big names with Salma Hayek and company, and these actors are willing to be really silly. It was very tongue-in-cheek and has an actionable conclusion. Make sure to read the terms and conditions. It was lighthearted but very real, and so it was easy enough to just move on to the next episode. Of course, with the next episode being Loch Henry, it almost felt like a bait and switch, going from relative optimism to complete despair. Interestingly enough, both episodes are related to streaming though, or maybe that's why I like them both. But yes, I think Loch Henry was extremely powerful. Our obsession with true crime is coming to bite us in the ass. It's very much like, oh, if only they'd kept with the original plan of talking to the Eggman. But it's not perfect, right? I don't know how I feel about Pia's death. It felt very disconnected. She wasn't murdered. She fell. I guess in a way it's a callback to what Davis mentioned in the beginning of the episode, that people used to go missing all the time in the area, which is why it took so long to realize that people were getting murdered to begin with. But it felt very blah, like she deserved more. I wonder if her death was necessary for the plot at all. On the one hand, this way Davis truly loses everything. But on the other hand, because her death is so disconnected, it feels unnecessary. It could have been maybe interesting to have her in the documentary in the end, maybe have her quote-unquote turn on Davis and get all the credit, something like that. I don't know. What do you think? Was Pia's death impactful for you? Are you satisfied with how that situation played out? Now, as for Mazey Day, the reason it's my least favorite is because I didn't feel like it made a particularly strong impact with its lesson. Paparazzi are not really a thing anymore. Of course, there's still paparazzi, but like they're not really as much of a thing as they were in the late 90s, early 2000s. Social media kind of ruined their business because now celebrities can share personal pictures that they choose to share. So it's not as interesting to see, you know, oh, that person left this bar. Maybe it could have had more impact if instead of paparazzi, we had influencers or YouTubers, like a prank video style, something along those lines. It makes it more relatable for current times, despite the supernatural elements of the episode. Combining the supernatural with an outdated profession made me feel completely disconnected from the story depicted on the screen. Even Demon 79 felt more relatable because of the whole racism plot point. This is very prevalent and timely, so even though the story takes place in the past and has a supernatural element, the story still has a very timely thread running through it, something that is still prevalent to this day. So yes, what were your favorite episodes this season? How do you think this season stacks up compared with the previous ones? I think I would place this one pretty high up. I really enjoyed watching the episodes, even if I was left, you know, just kind of, especially with Loch Henry and By the Sea, or whatever it's called, with the Josh Hartnett, Aaron Paul one. That one was just bleak. Oh my. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to see more of my face. Like I said, I might incorporate a little bit more of reaction videos, maybe like pepper in once a month if I can. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you so much for sticking around. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!